Hey y'all, it's me again. I'm going to continue reading from my book, The 1900s. Let's go. A mandate from civilization. For the revolutionaries, humiliation was nevertheless preferable to hanging. Throughout the negotiations, Brunel Varela had kept them informed of rising indignation in the United States over his and Roosevelt's management of the affair. The president soon had another revolt on his hands. This one was in the Senate and the country at large. It was not a massive revolt, but a surprising number of senators and important newspapers condemned TR's actions. Even the newspaper and public spokesman who supported TR refused to justify his action on moral grounds. Instead, as public opinion noted in November 1903, such a majority of the country wanted an Isthmian canal above all things, it was willing to overlook moral issues in order to justify taking them out as strictly a business question. Roosevelt refused to take that approach. As have most rulers who aggressively used negative force, he wanted mass with morality. In an outspoken special message to the Senate on January 4th, 1904, the president submitted the treaty and justified his actions in November on the grounds of the 1846 Pact. Our national interest is safety, and the usual Rooseveltian claim of the interest of collective civilization. He suffered no doubt that the United States had received a mandate from civilization to build a canal, although he did not tell exactly how that mandate had been expressed. One problem, of course, was that the interest of collective civilization had never been seen or defined. Was Columbia, for example, a part of collective civilization? Like many Rooseveltian phrases, the term better fit the present prejudice than any international legal or moral standard. Yet Tier 1, the prospect of the United States controlled canal use caused flutters of patriotism in too many hearts and the prospect of rich satisfaction in too many pocketbooks. After early 1904, politicians who opposed United States control of the canal were committing political suicide. But now Varela had triumphed. Although the Pittsburgh Post remarked TR's method in Panama were so subversive of the best principles of the Republic, the Frenchman had made the treaty so attractive that the United States, as he hoped, quickly chose power over principle. The worsening of relations. In May 1904, Roosevelt created Isthmian Canal Commission to build the canal. The commission was placed under the supervision of Secretary of War Taft. Within 3 months, the military members of the commission clashed with the State Department representatives in Panama. In Panama, the questions of sovereignty and the right of United States intervention coalesced to create the first major crisis between the two countries. The events of 1904 were not only important, they left an indelible mark on Panamanian political life. After he intervened in Panama in 1903, Roosevelt painstakingly explained his actions to the cabinet, then demanding know whether the explanation would silence his opponent. "Have I defended myself?" he asked. "You certainly have," replied a brave Ethel Root. You have shown that you were accused of seduction, and you have conclusively proved that you were guilty of rape. I don't even know what that means. If any of you know, please tell me, because I would like to know. Roosevelt never understood how his policy and explanations worsened the problems in the Caribbean area that he tried to stabilize. He, Taft, and Brunel Varela were making Panama, as well as the canal zone, a virtual colony of the United States, but the North American leaders refused to assume even the responsibility of inline colonialism, say that of using force or the threat of force to maintain one. That solution worsened, not ameliorated Panama's problem and consequently Panamanian relations with the United States. Chapter 6. The eve of a new decade. A placid man in a restless town. Mark Sullivan. In a six-volume work published from 1926 to 1933, the late journalist Mark Sullivan offered an acclaimed social history of the first 2.5 decades of the 20th century. Highly respected contemporary journalist Dan Rather, managing editor and anchor at television CBS Evening News and 48 Hours, abridged and edited Sullivan's volumes. In the following selection from his work, Rather focuses on the presidency of William Howard Taft. He describes Taft's inclination to choose sides between conservative stampeders and progressive insurgents. His response to an angry controversy over conservation and institution to try to reverse his decline in popularity by striking out against business trusts. According to Rather, Taft was an honorable, highly ethical, and courageous man and a good president. Yeah, right. Rather explains that Roosevelt set expectations when he told the American people that Taft and he were alike. According to Rather, Taft's chief failing was that he was not the replica of Theodore Roosevelt that the American public expected him to be. In the argot of politicians and Washington correspondents, there is, at the beginning of every administration, a honeymoon period during which White House and Capitol and partisan press observing politics radiate an altogether artificial and impermanent sweetness and trust and tolerance toward each other, especially on the part of the latter toward the new president. And William Howard Taft's case is sentimental interlude was exceptionally suggestive. Never, said the New York Sun, did any man come to presidency before with such universal goodwill. A survey that probed beneath the surface would have revealed that there have formed within the Republican Party an angry cleavage and insurgency by a minority West against a majority East. This insurgency, diverse in its origin, had one root in feeling on the part of the West that the protected tariff instituted to foster Eastern infant industries had overfed those industries until they were now fat and overbearing giants. And another in the resentment of the West, composed mainly of individual businesses, chiefly farming, against highly organized business in the East and its great corporations, which drew much of their sustenance from the West, but paid most of their profits to the East. Another in the erasure of the Granger West against the mainly Eastern-owned railroads, which had gone on from the 70s to the passage of Railroad Rate Act in 1906. Another in the memories of the long controversy over currency between mainly debtor West and mainly creditor East, which had lasted from soon after the Civil War until 1896. Another, the feeling that the remaining free lands in the West, especially the mineral and oil-bearing ones, were being accumulated in the private possession of Eastern-owned railroads and other corporations. This, one of the grievances expressed in a movement called Conservation of Natural Resources, had many adherents in East as well as West. All these rules drew sap from a deep undercurrent of American tradition, a spirit of resistance against authority, opposition against organized power, suspicion against vested interests. These prudent independence now expressing itself acutely in insurgency against the Republican Party was a dominant trait of the American people, as old as America itself. Politically and socially, it was America. It had inspired the first settlement as a continent, had caused our separation from the mother country, it had dictated the spirit and forms of the new government and institutions we set up. Our early settlers, as well as most of our immigrants, had been picked persons, selected by the law of their own natures, on the basis of resentment against authority. In Europe in the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries, the individual who found himself most irked by a stratified society, who most resented organized power, whether of the church or the system of land tenure or of caste of inherited place. Any whose instinct urged him toward independence moved to America. In each succeeding generation, this process of natural selection on the basis of instinct for independence repeated itself. In each generation, the most restless went west, the first wave to central New York, western Pennsylvania, Kentucky, and Tennessee, the next to Indiana, Illinois, and Wisconsin, the next to Iowa, Kansas, Nebraska, and Missouri, the next to the Rocky Mountains and the Pacific Coast. By the time of Taft's administration or earlier, the people of the West were the result of 3 or 4 successive shiftings of those most independent in spirit. Also, a new condition had arrived. The free learner was exhausted. No longer was there any out west to absorb those whose nature it was to resist authority, organization, to be made restless by the ruts of settled ways. Deprived of the chance of escape from what irked them, they turned to fight it. The condition expressed itself in defense of the Republican Party, the country, and the Congress, and to mainly Eastern stamp patterns, outward for conservative contentment with what is, and mainly Western progressives, translated by newspaper and popular zest for a fighting word into insurgents. Please rate, comment, and subscribe down below. And please ring that bell notification so that you can know when I upload. And if you're on TikTok, please like and follow my videos. And please pay for something on either my eBay and or Mercari. Okay? Bye.